What's going on, you guys? Brandon from Vegas. Merry Christmas to everybody. This is my guy, Boomer Bill, and today we are going to be discussing why the interest rates went down, but mortgage rates went up, and we're going to explain to you why higher interest rates and higher mortgage rates are actually good for first-time home buyers. Bill, let's blow their mind. A lot of these first-time home buyers are taught that, oh, low interest rates, that's the only time to buy. Why is that not necessarily true?
Well, because what ends up happening with lower interest rates is there's more buyers. There's more buyers that come into the market. And the sellers are like now in a better position to raise the price of their home.
Yeah.
So you just pay more money.
Here's real estate the Vegas way, okay? Here's how interest rates work the Vegas way, okay? Imagine you're in a nightclub, right? And there's 10 of your friends and 100 girls, right? You're having a good time. This is an amazing nightclub. The second the interest rates go down 1%, they just let 300 more guys into the nightclub. It's a sausage fest, right? And what's going to happen to that party? Is it going to be as fun? No. Right? Everything's going to get more expensive. The girls aren't going to want to talk to you. They're going to stop negotiating. Everything's going to get worse, right? Low interest rates are like a sausage fest at a nightclub. No one's having fun unless you're rich, all right? That's the best way we can explain it.
And I look at it from the standpoint of higher interest rates are a buyer's best friend.
Higher interest rates are like ladies' night at that nightclub. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive to get into the club, but now it's 10 of your friends and 100 girls, and you're having a great time.
Pick
right?
of the litter.
You're having the pick of the litter. Now, ladies, I'm not calling you a litter. We're using metaphors here to try to make an analogy for real estate for dum-dums, okay? Another confusing thing that's happening for a lot of buyers right now, Bill, as you can see on the screen behind me, this is from NPR.org, right? The Federal Reserve lowers interest rates again and hints at fewer cuts next year, okay? So the interest rate has gone down about 0.25%. But something interesting happened. Can you tell us, Bill?
Well, the interesting thing is the rates were cut by the Fed, but the mortgage rates went up. They went up.
Oh my God, Bill. I thought interest rates and mortgage rates were the same thing. What's going on?
I had an email this morning from a client that said, hey, I just saw that the Fed cut rates. How does the mortgage rate look today? Did it go down? And the Fed funds rate is completely different than mortgage rate. Fed funds rate is a fixed rate that is determined by the government, and they adjust it to move the economy up and down the way they want it. Mortgage rates are market driven, like the stock market. It goes up and down as the market goes.
Yep. And for people who need to see what this looks like, you guys can head to Mortgage News Daily. This is the site that most of us in the real estate industry use to understand things. And you can see right here on the screen behind me, the 30-year fixed rate has now gone up to about 7.14. 7.14. I remember in September when you and I were telling people to buy, and we said, hey, man, the rates just went down to like the low sixes. This is crazy. You should buy now. And remember what they told us, Bill? Oh, no, this is just a sign. Once Trump gets elected, he's going to fix everything. The rates are going to get derp. The rates immediately went back to 7%. Looks like your buddy Donald doesn't have the magic wand to lower mortgage rates. You know what I mean? And we told people, get a house now. The interest rate is in the mid to low sixes. This is as good as it's going to be for a while.
So Donald is actually trying to make the economy better. When the economy gets better, you generally have higher interest rates.
Yep.
And so and people are starting to feel like, oh, maybe he's going to improve the economy. Well, the Wall Street, they don't necessarily like it because it can be inflationary.
Yeah.
And inflationary is the bad man.
Yeah.
You don't want it.
Yeah. So it's a tenuous thing right now. And this is why we're seeing such a difference in mortgage rates and interest rates. And this is what we've been trying to explain to people. Interest rates and mortgage rates are not the same thing. Mortgage rates are far more determined on treasury bonds, treasuries and bonds than they are on what the current interest rate is, right? Because you guys gotta understand, a lot of the loans that you guys are taking out for mortgages, they're being packaged and sold to Wall Street, who buys them in bulk, right? So it's a whole industry. And this idea that like, oh, they're going to drop the interest rate and now our houses are going to be cheaper, it's just not going to go that way, right? If the economy does get better, Bill, what's going to happen to the cost of housing? Is it going to get cheaper?
Well, something came out today, right? It's all about supply and demand. And we've talked about there's just not enough supply of homes, generally speaking, inventory wise. Today, housing starts came out at like somewhere around 1.2 and household formation is 1.9. So there's a 700,000 gap in regards to people needing a home. So even though interest rates are looking to be going up, there's just not enough homes for people to buy. And so I think that the higher interest rates, as I talked about, is your buyer's best friend, is that that's going to probably temper the appreciation, right? Yeah. So it may not go up as much. I think we're going to see appreciation for sure because it's just the way the market is right now and there's not enough supply. But if rates drop, it's going to go down. The values are going to skyrocket.
If I'm a first-time home buyer, right, this scares me because I'm getting a lot of mixed information, right? My grandpappy Joe or my Uncle Sam or, you know, whoever it is that's giving you your real estate advice, whoever the person you're probably getting 10 million pieces of advice from everybody. Some people are telling you buy when the rates are low. Some people are telling you wait for a market crash, right? You're hearing 10 million different things from 10 million people. And it's like, who do I trust? Who do I believe, right? Yeah. And here we are telling first-time home buyers, hey, everything you've been told about real estate is completely wrong. Rates being low are actually bad for you, right? Rates being higher is actually good for you. Here we're telling them, hey, when everybody else is scared to buy, now it's the time to buy, right? And it's hard for them to trust. They've been burned so many times, and a lot of them are millennials who grew up with the trauma of the real estate attack, right? So a lot of people are in their 30s, and the first time they ever thought about real estate is when it was falling apart, right? And no one talks about this, but the trauma of the real estate attack, it still lingers. There are a lot of millennials who think legitimately the real estate house market crashes all the time. They think every 10 to 15 years we just get a crash. And it's like, no, dude, this is a once in a lifetime event. You just happen to experience it, and now you're traumatically affected.
Totally affected. And it is difficult. They're very fearful of jumping into the marketplace. Can they afford it? Can they buy it? They don't want to jump off the cliff and jump into the market. And unfortunately, how many people do you know, Brandon, that have said, man, I wish I didn't buy my house?
None.
Like it just doesn't happen.
None.
And so part of it is just the mindset, getting that mindset correct, and just understanding that you're looking at this investment for a long time. Real estate is a long-term investment, although everybody seems to look at it like right now, this second, right? Yeah. It's this second. This is what it is. I think I'm paying too much. I think the interest rates are too high. I'm not going to do anything. But real estate is typically a 7 to 10 year investment for people buying their homes. Yeah. And they need to look at it from that standpoint. What's going to change in their life over that time period? Is their income going to go up? Have they improved? If they look backwards 7 years, has their situation improved from 7 years ago? Yeah. And I would argue that most people will say yes. Some will say no, and then it's not for them. But some people just have to, in my opinion, here's the baby boomer, suck it up.
Boomer Bill.
You got to just suck it up and figure it out and take that dive, because at some point in time, those values are going to go up. And at some point in time, the interest rates are going to come down. So you might as well buy at a lower price now and refinance down the road and just figure out how to make it happen.
Telling millennials to sacrifice is like telling...
I know, I'm not good that way. But it's true.
Bill, whether it's true or not, they don't care. Right? Bill, it's none of those. Telling millennials to sacrifice is like telling my wife to not buy the most expensive brand of spaghetti sauce. She's going to do it, right? Like she can't do it. It's not in her programming, right? And what I try to do is work around millennials' fear of losing things, right? They're accustomed to a certain lifestyle, right? And so when I try to teach them to sacrifice that lifestyle, they get really angry and they don't listen. So what we're going to try to do for them is give them the numbers and the tools to kind of make their own changes, right? So one of the big ways that we help not just millennials, but millennials are the most common home buyer right now, right? One of the best pieces of advice we try to give them is showing them, here's what your mortgage is now. Here's what it'll be if the rates drop, right? Do you know how many people out there have no clue what a mortgage could be? They don't know. They know it's a thing, but they don't actually know the numbers. So let's just start with one of the easiest things in the world, okay? You have a 400,000 on your list. You have 500,000 or 400,000?
I started as a sale price of 500 with a 10% down, so a 450 loan.
Okay. So you have a $500,000 house, right?
Yep.
10% down payment, though you could do 3.5%, right? What's the mortgage on a $500,000 house?
On a $500,000 house, 10% down. They can do 3.5.
Sure.
You want me to do 3.5?
Oh, let's do 10%, and then we'll go from
okay.
there. Yeah.
At just call a stated rate of 7%. As you can see, it's higher than that. Mortgage News Daily, but it's 7%. The principal and interest, $2,994.
So let's put it on the screen for them. People like the screen. You guys see the screen behind me? People like the screen. So here we go. So, Bill, you said
Loan
a
amount,
$500,000 house, right?
Yes.
With a 10% down payment. Mortgage is what?
450,000.
400. Well, no. What's the mortgage coming out to?
Oh, the principal and interest
Yeah.
would be $2,994.
Okay. So you got a $500,000 house. You put 10% down. Your mortgage is coming out to $2,995, right? What's the interest rate on this?
That's at 7%.
7%. Okay. Now, Bill, people have this misconception. A lot of millennials, because again, they're learning from their dad, their Uncle Joe. They haven't taught real estate education in 60 years. I don't know where the hell your Uncle Joe and your Grandpappy Sam think they're getting this knowledge from, but these dudes haven't bought houses in 20, 30 years, right? So, Bill, the interest rate goes down to 6%.
Correct.
Right? Now, this is the best part. People have this idea that the interest rate goes down and the housing price stays exactly the same. But you and I know that's not true. Bill, do you know that most people don't realize the interest rate simply controls how much money banks can borrow? Right? So if the interest rate going down means banks can borrow more money, and when banks can borrow more money, they loan out more money. Bill, what happens when people have more money to spend?
They spend it. They enjoy spending.
Bill, I'm going to repeat this again. What happens when people have more money to spend?
They spend a lot more money.
What happened when everybody got their COVID money? Did they save it? Did they invest in stocks? Did they invest in houses? Or did they buy Jordans?
They bought Jordans.
Did they inflate the market so poorly that we're dealing with it today?
They created inflation.
Okay. So if people are willing to inflate the market for eggs, sneakers, and TVs, what do you think is going to happen when they get more money to spend on houses?
They're going to spend more.
They're going to spend more on houses. So, Bill, that $500,000 house, when we go down to 6%, what happens to the cost of that house?
So with the same mortgage payment, $2,995 actually would go up.
What happens to
They
the
would
cost?
have to pay $555,000. 10% down, they'd get a $499,500 loan amount.
And the mortgage is what?
The mortgage payment would
$2,000?
be $2,995.
Guys, I put this on this. Now, I do have a big head, so let me try to tilt to the side for you guys. The reason I like to put this on the screen is because a lot of you have literally never seen a mortgage breakdown before, so you don't understand what you're paying for, right? Check this out. When the interest rate goes down, you're not actually saving money on the mortgage. You're just getting the same house for $55,000 more expensive, right?
Correct.
You're getting the same house, but $55,000 more expensive. Even worse, Bill, the guy who bought the house at $500,000, he just made $55,000 off your sorry ass, right? All you did was make this guy more money. He's grateful for you, but I would much rather be this guy than this guy.
And can I throw something else out there?
Yeah, throw it.
So when the rates do go down to 6%, maybe you were going there, if what ends up happening is their new mortgage payment, instead of $2,994, goes to $2,698. Okay? Number one. And then number two, more than likely they remove mortgage insurance, which is another huge savings.
Yep.
So part of it is just like trying to understand and get educated and create that mindset of, okay, I can make this. I can make this happen. How am I going to make it happen? And it's hard, but to get into the game, I think you just have to do it. And the other thing, can I throw some out here?
Yeah.
So what are sellers providing right now in the marketplace, right?
Man, sellers are hoeing out right now in the to bring it back to Vegas, sellers like this is a bit lowbrow, but follow me here, okay? So when you work in nightclubs, there's a thing called cuff. Now, Bill's a boomer, so
yes, I won't know this.
We're going to explain a lot to Bill.
I'm going to be educated on this.
So, Bill, there's this thing called cuffing season, right?
Okay.
Where girls know that it's cold during the winter and there's nothing but ugly dudes, right? So the later it gets into the winter, girls will start what's called cuffing season. They need to find their winter guy, right? Because they don't want to be lonely during the ugly year, the ugly period. So what happens is the closer it gets to December, the more scandalous girls dress at the clubs because, right, they're getting more, they got to find that cuffing season guy, right? And that's what sellers are doing right now.
Yeah.
They listed their house in September and they're like, oh, we're going to clean up, honey. Well, they haven't found a buyer in September. They price dropped in October. They price dropped in November. Now the interest rates went up. So now there's even fewer buyers on the market. These houses are desperate. The cleavage is coming out. The skirts are getting shorter. I know back in your day, Bill, the dresses were to the floor, but nowadays these dresses are barely on.
There's a lot of makeup.
Yeah. These girls are wearing what they call the birthday makeup. You don't know about that, Bill. Your wife knows. If your wife was here, she would know. But they put on the birthday makeup, the special makeup. These houses are whoring it up. They're willing to give you anything because they're tired of being on the market. All right. That's honestly, to me, the biggest reason why I tell people to buy when the interest rates are higher. You guys forget that there's a seller involved in this deal, right? It's not just you going to buy the house. It's the person selling it to you negotiating what they're selling it for.
And here's an example of what people can do right now. They could do a permanent buy down the interest rate, and have the seller pay for it. We've done 2 transactions. We've had over $20,000 in closing costs given by the last 2 transactions.
100%.
They're willing to do that. You can do a 2-1 buy down where the interest rate drops by 2% in the first year to kind of give you a little bit of breathing room.
A little bit of breathing room, yeah.
In the first 2 years, you get a little bit of breathing room for you to get adjusted to the new house, the accommodations of it, the new lawnmowers, all that kind of stuff that you need, right?
Yep.
And then in that time period, certainly there's risk of anything, but the hope is that the rates would drop to a level that you can refinance and get into a more permanent loan after the 2-1 buy down.
Yep.
But that 2-1 buy down is phenomenal.
When we get back, it's time for our midday break. We're going to do a giveaway to the people in the chat right now. When we get back from the giveaway, Bill, I want you to explain to people the difference between a 2-1 buy down and a permanent buy down. Okay?
Yep.
Bill.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
I'm a millennial. I don't know anything. No one's taught me anything. I'm stressed. I'm anxious. I want to buy houses. I want to be, it's time for me to finally grow up. I've wasted my 20s chasing experiences and travel and I'm ready to be an adult. It's taken me longer than I took my parents and my grandparents, but I am ready to finally commit to being an adult. What the hell do I do? What is a 2-1 buy down? What is a rate buy down? What does this mean?
So can you pull up Mortgage News Daily again?
I can pull up Mortgage News Daily again.
Let's just use that as an example.
All right, here we go.
So if you see the 30-year fixed rate, 7.14%, that is the rate from across the country. That's the average rate of all lenders throughout the country.
Okay.
So you would pay a 1% origination fee on that particular rate. 1% origination is on the loan amount. So if it's a $450,000 loan, it would be $4,500 to get that rate today.
And what am I paying? What's the origination fee? Is that for like a finder's fee? Is that for people finding the money for me?
It's basically, they call it an origination fee. It's the cost of obtaining the mortgage from the lender. So that's a fee to the lender for providing that rate.
For finding the money?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Everybody understands a finder's fee. There you go. So you pay your origination fee, and then what?
So then a 2-1 buy down would be 2% lower than the 7.14%. So it'd be 5.14%
Okay.
for the first year. And then it would be 1% lower in the second year. So it would be 6.14% in the second year. And then the third year, it would revert back to the market rate as of today, 7.14%. But if you look at the payment, right, on that, so I'm going to just use the right numbers, 7.14. The principal and interest as of today, $3,036.
Okay.
Okay. If you did the 2-1 buy down and you did 5.14, it goes down to $2,454. So it's almost $600 a month.
You're saving $600 a month. Now, it's not, that 2-1 buy down is not permanent.
Not
permanent. But if I'm saving $600 a month for the first year, that's $7,200 in my pocket to help me kind of, what the 2-1 buy down really does is it helps you get acclimated to the house, right?
Correct.
It gives you basically a reprieve.
Yes.
Your first year, you're getting a below market rate. Hopefully, you take that extra $600 you're saving and you put it in a savings account. You don't want to say, oh, look, my first year, my mortgage is $600 lower. That means I can travel more. That means I can buy more shit. No, you want to take that $600, you want to save it. And that way, when your rate starts to normalize, you can do what's called a permanent buy down. Can you explain to what that is, Bill?
So a permanent buy down is essentially buying the interest rate. So if it's 7.14% and you pay 1 point to lower the rate, it would go down by about 0.375%. If you buy it down with 2 points, it would go down by another 0.375. So 0.75% for 2 points. So that would go from 7.14 to 4 minus 0.75.
Guys, I know we're using a lot of
6.39%. And that would then make it $2,812 a month payment.
Okay. So a lot of people don't know this, but you can buy down your rate. Matter of fact, you can be under contract and decide, hey, I want to put some extra money towards my rate. We actually had this a year ago. Quick little story time because Bill and I do a lot of houses together. Actually, this was a new build. So we're under contract, right? And the we had negotiated so much money from seller closing. The escrow agent calls me and goes, hey, look, I've paid off their closing cost. I paid off their HOA for a year. We still have like $7,000. What do you want me to do with it? And I said, how far can you buy down their rate? And they said, about $7,000 worth. So we ended up bumping their rate down damn near 0.5%, right? So we bumped it down at the time from like 6.5 down to 6, right? And they didn't have to use any of their own money because guess what? As we said, these sellers are whoring it up. They're salacious in the club. They're willing to give you all this closing cost money to buy their house.
Well, and it's also because of Brandon being an amazing negotiator, the best negotiator out there. He is unbelievable, price-wise and closing costs. So, you know, I'm just going to say that. I see a lot of transactions. This guy gets it.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
That's why it's such a good dynamic duo.
But I want to do clarity real quick. 2-1 buy down is a temporary buy down.
Yep.
2% lower in the first year, 1% lower in the second year, and then it goes to the market rate. Permanent buy down, permanent. It means that if you get the lower rate, that's your lower rate for 30 years.
That's your lower rate, 100%. One of the big things we're seeing across the board right now is people kind of foregoing the interest rate buy down and instead using the money for the seller to, let's just say, keep money in their pocket, right? So if I'm a first-time home buyer and I have the choice between, let's say, keeping $10,000 in my pocket. Now, you don't get to make the money. What we're saying is closing costs come out of your pocket, right? So if the seller gives you $10,000, you can use that to pay off $10,000 worth of closing cost. For a lot of people, the question comes down to what's better, to put that $10,000 towards my rate or to just say, hey, look, I'm going to keep an extra $10,000 in my pocket?
It just depends on their situation. My opinion is I would probably use it for closing costs. I don't think I would buy rates down at this point.
Okay, I'm with you. I think that's going to be our final piece of advice today is if you're a millennial, if you're a first-time home buyer, whatever, right? rates are not worth buying down to me unless there's always an exception. Unless a new build is giving you a permanent buy down to something stupid. So for example, when we went to buy my house, the conventional rates had hit 7.1. Okay, well, I'm trying to buy an $800,000 house. I really don't want to be paying 7.1% interest on that number. The builder I went with was offering me a 4.9 rate. I said, okay, that's enough for me to make the leap, right? But unless your buy down is something significant, I'm not talking about half a point. I mean a significant multiple point buy down. To me, it's not worth it. Keep that money in your pocket.
Yeah.
Keep that money in your pocket.
Can I make one other suggestion? Right now, a lot of people, the difficulty is saving money, right? It's hard to save money. And as long as they have money for the down payment, someone like you can negotiate the seller paying closing costs so they can get into the game if they only have enough money for the down payment, and then they go shopping for the house. And if a house and a seller is willing to negotiate and pay the seller, pay the closing costs, you can get into the home. If they don't, you go to the next house.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. These are all tips that I wish I had been given long ago, right? But these are things we want to share now. A lot of first-time buyers, a lot of Gen Z, millennials aren't getting good advice because they don't teach real estate education anymore, right? They just don't. And so they're lost in the wilderness. They're scared. And I'm hoping that somewhere with our Vegas analogies or just your straight financial analysis of what's really going on, I hope we reach some of them, right? And let them know, like, hey, this isn't as scary as they're making it seem. You will have to bite the bullet. You will have to make some upfront sacrifices, but these interest rates aren't going anywhere, right? And you either deal with them now or you wait for the prices to be $50,000, $60,000 higher and deal with it then.
Yes.
But there's no easy out. Or, hey, you can keep renting as we raise your rent $100 a month. My brother rented a condo. Swear to God, I got him the condo to rent. His original payments were like $750, $800. He's paying $1,350 now. They've raised his rent quite literally every year, and now he went from $800 to $1,350, right? That's going to happen to everybody's rent, you know?
It goes up.
And it's either you bite the bullet now or you wait for rent to become unmanageable.
And I would say this, if you have a good rental and it's below market and you feel very good about it, if you are in that situation, save the money because eventually you're going to need to use it to get into a house because eventually the house will be sold. They'll raise the rent. Something's going to happen. I just had one client was in for 9 years as a rental, way below market, amazing house. All of a sudden the seller said, well, I'm done. I got to sell the house. And they were like, whoa. And they wish they bought actually 9 years ago because they would have been in a much better situation.
Everybody who buys a house, you asked me earlier, does anybody ever buy a house and regret it? No. What people always regret is not buying sooner. We bought some new townhomes in Inspirada. The construction manager goes, man, I bought a couple of these, 2019, and I've already made $150,000. He goes, I wish I had bought the whole unit. He goes, if I knew what I knew now, I'd have just bought every, townhome in the unit and made a profit. And I said, everybody feels that way. Everybody feels. Imagine the people who lived in Vegas in the early 2000s. When houses were going for $100,000, $125,000, interest rates were sitting there in the 3s, 4s, and 5s, right? How many people are kicking themselves that they didn't buy every house in Summerlin, right? Fast forward to 2019. People in Vegas are like, oh my God, we're becoming California. These houses are going for $250,000 in Summerlin. And it's like, bro, 2 years later, that house was $500,000, right? You kick yourself from not buying more. It's not the other way around.
Yeah. I unfortunately had a good friend, very astute, and he sold his house right during that first part of 2009, or actually COVID. And he was like, oh yeah, the market's going to completely crash. It's going to go down. And he's now like, he can't get back in. he's just like, I don't know what to do.
They never put that guy on TV. They never put the guy who's like, damn, I was so stupid to believe you guys that the market was going to crash. They never put that guy, right? They never.
Simply put, there's not enough houses for the number of potential buyers out there.
Yep.
And as rates come down, more buyers will jump in and they will take them up.
Even if rates never come down, buyers are going to keep buying. Guys, no matter how to take it back to the nightclub, no matter how much they charge for entry, if there's beautiful girls in the club, guys will keep paying. Maybe not all of them, but there's always going to be guys who want that, right? Real estate's the same way. No matter what that interest rate gets to, someone's always going to be buying, right? And make sure it's you. Make sure it's you, because if a majority of people aren't buying, you don't want to be with the majority. Straight up. When to close it on this, the thing I hate hearing the most is, well, and no one's buying right now. And I said, okay, so why do you want to be no one? If everyone's doing something, why do you want to be everyone? Everyone's broke, right? Everyone's broke. Everyone can't buy eggs. Everyone is struggling for money. Why do you want to be them instead of the people who aren't struggling?
And the interesting thing, no one's buying and home values are going up.
Crazy, right?
How does that work, right?
Crazy.
It's supply and demand.
Yeah. Hey guys, I want to thank you guys for your time. I know interest rates aren't the sexiest of topics, but if we're going to get you guys in homes, if we're going to continue this journey of trying to educate you guys, then the interest rates are going to continue being a huge part of this. You have to know what they do. You have to know how they affect you. And you have to understand that interest rates and mortgage rates don't necessarily go hand in hand like that, right? Bill, you're smart. These people need you. How can they contact you for absolutely free?
BillGaylord.com. Do it. Just find out what your numbers are, what you need to do to get a game plan to get into a home, whether it's in the next 90 days or 2 years, whatever it is. We go through it step by step. BillGaylord.com says free consultation. Go ahead and do it. Love to talk with you. Love what I do, and I really want to help you get into a home.
Yep. And it's free. I'm going to keep repeating that because a lot of people think that by talking to you, it's going to cost them money, and it's free. It's free. It's free. It's $3.99. It costs nothing. Zip, zero. Right? I'm Brandon from Vegas. As always, you guys can find me just about anywhere. Just type my name into Google. We're going to give away another gift card, but you guys on YouTube probably don't want to watch that. So for the most part, this will be the end of our show. We'll be back after Christmas. We have another episode dropping next week because I have the best podcast producers in the game. So we're already ahead of schedule. We're already prepared. Merry Christmas to all of you guys. I hope you get everything you want. I hope your kids get everything they want. We'll be back with you guys beginning of January to keep kicking ass, keep discussing where the market's going. Trump will get office officially, so I'm sure a bunch of crazy shit's going to happen. We'll be there to talk about all of that. And Bill, Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Merry Christmas to you.
And as always, come and be my neighbor. Peace.
Bye, everybody. Gaylord out.